it is very time consuming, but looks like it's been a great addition to the Hawkeye family. So certainly welcome her to campus. And the basketball teams both being out there, the men's and women's teams both had tremendous seasons, and really it's kind of been a department-wide thing. Just a lot of good things going on with all of our teams, all of our sports, and it was last weekend or 2 weekends ago the soccer team doing what they did. So just it's been fun to watch everybody go on and have success, and also Chauncey being picked last night by the Cowboys. Really happy for him. He's just kind of a prototypical Iowa player in my mind. A guy who came in here probably under-recruited, and boy, he's just kind of done things in a quality fashion. Really from the first day he got here, he's developed as a player. Did everything he's supposed to do academically, and then some. Graduated with ease last December, and just a first-class guy. So really happy for him. And hopefully the other guys joining him here today. I'm not sure what time they started, but hopefully it'll be a good day that way. And then also just want to thank our fans again. Great to be in Kinnick first and foremost with live bodies, live people. Appreciate their energy, and think a little bit. I think interface with folks. I think everybody's ready to get back to hopefully no more normal times here next fall. Hopefully it'll begin. I know we feel that way. I know the officials felt that way. So I'm sure most people do. So it was a good day. I think a good day of work, and we'll be anxious to see the tape. Really no more after practice after we look at the tape. But I think overall it's been a good spring, a productive spring for us. I think the attitude's been good, the effort's been good. So happy about that. I think we're seeing a lot of improvement. And start with the older guys. We're kind of in tiers with the football team. Got some guys that played a lot of football. Think about Linderbaum on offense. Think about Van Valkenburg, he's like 28 now or whatever, however old he is. But both those guys out there just really practicing well. But I'd say that about all of our experienced players. I thought they really were working hard. I thought they improved, and if we're gonna have a good team, that's really important. And it's you can say the same thing about our younger guys, although they were clearly like in a little different tier. We kind of got two tiers there. You've got guys that maybe have been in the program, haven't played a lot, that we saw some improvement. I can address those guys here in a minute. And then you got another tier of guys that really haven't hit the field. And beyond that, that first week I had to show up the hands of guys that have never been through a spring practice, and it's a big number. And that I think really showed the last 2 weeks. Just the conditioning level, the endurance that it takes to really practice hard and practice with quality, the quality kind of work that you have to get. So it's good that they had a chance to experience in that. Think about our freshman class. Clearly, they didn't go through spring ball because there was, they just got here in June, but they didn't go through a traditional preseason practice last year, so they missed out on that. This is the first time they've really had to kind of push it a little bit. And I'd say the same thing about our second guys, missing last spring, missing camp, second-year players. They got a lot of ground to cover too. So the only way to get that ground covered, you got to go out and experience and figure out just exactly how far you got to go. And so I think this will be a good, good education for them that way. And then the big thing is to take the next phase with the kind of seriousness they need to, and push the needle a little bit in terms of maturity. But just pleased with the attitude. I think we got a lot of room for improvement right now, and that's a good thing. So that part's all good. I'm happy to answer questions about specifics, etc. as we go along. I'm sure you got a few of those. And then just kind of in closing, I think one other thing to note, in college football right now, we're really getting ready to hopefully get back to more normal circumstances football-wise, just like our whole country. Hopefully we're getting closer that way. And I didn't wear a mask out there, and I'm pretty sure I heard the top medical officer this week say you don't have to wear them outdoors. So I fully appreciated that. But hopefully we're moving in the right direction in college football. Let's say football stuff's normal. We're getting ready to enter this new era of the transfer portal with free waivers. That's new, and then at least the one-time waiver. And really, in reality, they're waivers are waivers. They're going to be they come a little bit more liberally than they used to. And then the other part is going to be NLI. At some point, that's going to start to be part of our lives too. So, all that being said, this is kind of the time where everybody assesses things. We're assessing things and trying to be with our players and tell them what they need to do moving forward. And I'm sure we'll have some guys at some point. Every year, you have some guys that decide they're going to have other opportunities or whatever. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, because it's a new, little bit different landscape than what we're used to. But so again, I think it's been a good spring. This team's been really good since we started in January. Done a nice job academically, they've done a nice job off the field. And key thing for us to do right now is close out next week, last week of our classes, and then finals the week after. So finish that chapter, finish up in quality fashion, and then they'll have some time to relax, and we'll turn our attention to summer after that. So we'll go from there, do that in June. But all that being said, I'll throw it up for questions then.
How would you assess your quarterbacks thus far, through 15 practices? Did Spencer do what you wanted to do, and then the other two as well?
Yeah, I think we're moving along, kind of our whole team. I think we're moving along. Spencer's not, he's still got room for improvement. Hopefully, I'm saying that, before his last year here too. But I think he's improving for sure. And I think probably a little more notable are the other guys kind of closing. I don't want to say closing the gap, but moving into the field of consideration. And I think I think Alex has had, he's finished the second half of spring probably. He's on that upward trajectory right now, and I think Deuce is trying to figure some things out. But we've seen enough from both those guys to feel good about him, and feel good about Connor too. But there's, right now it's Spencer, and then those two, and then I think Connor comes behind him.
How do you feel about the line development over this spring?
Yeah, good and bad. Our experienced guys look good. I mean, Linderbaum, we expected him to. And I think he's played better than he did last year, which is good. But a guy, Collar Shot, who played well for us in the past, but I think he's taking things to heart. Sometimes the older guys see that window close a little bit, and they understand it's time to really get going. And I think he's done a good job. And then I mentioned, we got some guys that have been in the background. They've been around. They haven't been playing. But a guy like Nick DeYoung, Jack Plum, and even Mason Richmond's only been here 2 years, but those guys made a clear step forward too. So I think a big challenge for us right now is going to, we still got work to do with all those guys, but then we're going to have to develop some depth. And we don't have much depth on our team, period, just anywhere. I'm sure there's an exception, but I'm not sure where that is. So that's going to be a real race against time for us.
Kirk, how confident are you right now with Shudak? I mean, he doesn't have much experience, but he's been around forever.
I feel great about a lot of things. I feel pretty good about that one. He could have been a starter the last 2 years. We've watched everything in practice. And so it's one thing the way he performs, but it's also the way he's wired mentally. He's a really mentally tough guy, focused, and just so serious. So he's come here and just done a great job since the day he got here. And I think we have total confidence. That is one area right now. It's kind of representative of our team. We do have, unlike last year, we got two specialists that are, I think, pretty good. And I throw Austin in there too, snapping the ball. We minimize that. Charlie Jones returning punts. We have four guys that we've seen do it and do it well, do it consistently. But then what's behind those guys, and that's a real variable right now, wild card. Although Aaron Blum's already done a nice job kicking the ball. You saw that today.
What do you feel you have in Tyler Goodson?
With Goodson? Really happy with him. And I include him in that veteran group of guys that have played well. Obviously, he's a veteran, he's on his third year. But, he's practiced every day with a great attitude, works hard. Tyrone Tracy, the same thing, until he twisted his ankle. But the guys that we think are really quality players that have proven themselves as quality players, they've had a great attitude all the way through spring. And, that sounds mundane, it sounds routine, but, you don't always see that, especially for older guys. Sometimes they think, it's spring break instead of spring practice, and they go on out and show them the other guys, like, this is the number you're supposed to work at. And the other guys are chasing them. And, we've got two young backs, talk about that second tier. Both Gavin and LeSean have been, we've been really pleased with what we've seen. Irie's out. So that's a position where we might have some depth. We probably do, but there aren't many of them on our team right now.
Defensively, Coach, what did you think about the performance today? And then Riley Moss, how have you seen his development over the years?
Yeah, one thing I mentioned about Riley, I'll start with him, in the spirit of Jovan Johnson, who's here today, he got here yesterday. Jovan, from the day he walked in, two things he did. He was talking from the time we started recruiting him, like he was talking, positive talk, but he was always chattering, talking. He has a good spirit to him, good life. And the other thing, once we started practicing, he had a knack. It seemed like he got his hands on a ball every day at practice. And that, again, it sounds but he's a defensive back, right? That doesn't always happen. And Riley's kind of had that kind of spring. He made 2 plays, not this week, but the week before, in one practice. Balls were getting batted around. Somehow he came out with 2 of them in the same practice, or fighting for a ball with another guy, an offensive guy. And then today, made a nice play. So he's really had a good spring. And I've included him in that veteran group of guys that we know he can play winning football for us, and but he's taking it, he's taking this the way we hope he would. And, I think all of our older guys have really set a good example for younger guys, and then our defense overall, they've been okay, and it's 15 days into it. It's like camp, by 15, usually by day 8, they know the offense better than the offensive team does. So, but that's their job. Like that's what you're supposed to do on defense. I'm not criticizing them that they start running our plays before we do it. We'll break them a huddle. They already know what's coming.
You mentioned Gavin behind Goodson. What kind of jumps did you see him make in the spring? And obviously it's still early, you got a few months, but what kind of factor can he be for you guys in fall?
You never want anybody injured. But the fact that Ivory couldn't practice, that opened the door for both those guys. And we all feel like we know Ivory. We want him to get healthy right now, so he can be full speed here in August. But those two we've really liked everything about Gavin. He was an early entry a year ago. But they get to go through spring ball, right? March 13th, the curtain came down. So this has been really good for him, and it's been good for us to see him. And the first thing that comes to mind with him is his attitude. He's really serious. He's a football-minded guy. And just talked about Chauncey's attributes. Gavin's more highly recruited, but he's just one of those guys that there's no maintenance, ever academically, football-wise. He just does what he's supposed to do, and he does it in a really quality fashion. So we feel really good about him. And then LeSean was feeling his way in the fall. We didn't have camp, so there's a lot of scout team work there and all that kind of thing. And then in the out-of-season program in shorts, he's okay. When he has pads on, he's a lot more impressive. He's a football player. He's not a combine warrior, one of those guys. So, and our defensive guys feel the same way. Like, if you got to tackle him, it's a little different. And I'm not saying he's LeSean Daniels, but he's similar to LeSean, and there's a real physical presence to his play. And he's a great young man, too. And this has been really good for him to get a lot of work and repetition. And, Liddell's done a really nice job with that group. He's been excellent.
Is Ivory Kelly on track for you?
I'm sorry?
Ivory Kelly, is he on track with the time?
Yeah, he's doing great. Everything's right on the money. Yeah, right on the money.
And then, I guess, what boxes did you check this spring maybe that you really wanted to check? I feel like you really accomplished your things.
It's all about you deal with the circumstances in front of you. Last year, big jump from last year, right? Because there were no circumstances, there was no practice. So big jump there. So the only negative I see right now is we had a lot of guys out, and an inordinate amount of injuries, right? And that we didn't experience that in the fall. A lot of that's kind of like getting COVID or not getting COVID. There's some luck involved too, I think, in all this stuff. And we have not been lucky that way. We've had some guys with like just freakish, flukish stuff. I'll name one of the guys, but one of our younger guys walk on, just doing a routine drill, got a Liz Frank injury on his foot, which you might as well. It's not good. It's like 9-10 months. So there's nothing dramatic. None of our injuries have been the result of dramatic trauma out there. It's just those things happen sometimes. So, but the good news there is that it gives other guys more opportunity to work. But good. Hopefully we'll have all those guys back. That's been really the only kind of I don't want to call it frustrating, but it's just been. It is what it is. Kudos to Matt Fagan and Louis Steck. They were the Ironmen of the spring. They allowed our lines to continue because we were getting thin on both lines. And I don't think those guys missed barely anything, so they enabled us to go, and we appreciate that. And they're both tough, competitive kids. But no, I think it's all about, it's, like I said, we're not trying to get game ready right now. We're not trying to put a team together. We're just trying to get guys to move forward. And I think the guys were able to work at that. And then, the guys that weren't able to work, we're going to have to catch up. It'll be easier for some than others, so. But it's just good to be practicing. We didn't do a pie throwing, pie in the sky or pie in the face contest today or anything like that. Maybe with the NCAA rules that are about to come out, we may end up doing that in August because I'm not sure we're going to be allowed to practice. So we'll have time for those kinds of things. But, we figured we better just keep working because we got some work to do.
When you look at your experience,
I'm sorry.
when you look at your defensive line right now, I think 4 out of your 8 guys you put on your spring depth chart have been out. And especially considering he's probably going to go to the assignment individual team today. That's got to be troubling to you. What's their progress like? And then on the second part of that is Lucas Van Ness seemed to have really kind of jump and make some plays, at least.
He's made them all spring. He's been really going at a high pace. And I talked to you a year ago, or last year in the fall, I guess it would have been, feels like a year ago, just about what a jump he and Davion had made from 19, right? I mean, those guys were a whole different level than the year prior. And Zach has continued to accelerate, like he's on that pace. So, and it just kind of fits into that same old story I give you about, like, our good guys have to be getting better, and he's definitely done that. And it also seems like every spring when we go out there, not last spring, but every spring we go out there, okay, how are we going to replace these 3 guys that we just graduated? They're pretty good. And then by the end of spring, you feel better about things. And that second tier of guys, talked about the offensive linemen. You think about John Wagner, you think about Noah Shannon, the work that those guys have done. And then Joe Evans has really been, you know, to me, he's been a good player, but he's really developing into a total player, if you will. So those things make you feel good because we're making that progress. And then the guys that aren't out, we've had guys in and out. Some of the guys that work today, they've missed probably half the spring ball. So those are, you know, they're going to try to close that gap here between now and September. But I think we feel good about the group overall. It's a really young group. But we see a lot of potential and a lot of good, you know, guys have good motors. So I think we get that done if we just keep them on the field and keep them getting better.
Kirk and we're all questioning, you know, what's going on the defensive line and the linebacking core. How nice is that to have a secondary that's so experienced that maybe anchor that defense a little bit, and you know, just be able to have an area where you are a little more experienced.
Yeah, you know. I don't want to get start celebrating things or whatever, but I almost kind of feel right now as I stand here, we have probably 6 starters in the defensive backfield, and that's probably a good thing since we play a lot of 5DB stuff now, even though we call it cash. But you know, I feel like we've seen a lot of growth there. Kayvon Merriweather, if you want to talk about those guys, maybe haven't played a lot. Kayvon's really, and he's emerged as a leader too, not just a good player, but as a leader. He's playing with confidence now. He was kind of a project when we recruited him. You know, he's a better basketball player probably. And but I think he's really hit full stride. Notch below, Quinn Sholey has done a nice job back there. Sebastian Castro has done a nice job. In the corner position, we feel pretty good about Terry Roberts, the way he's grown. You guys all saw it starting to happen on special teams last year. We didn't have a better special teams player, and I think that's carried over to the defense, and we feel good about Hankins too with Riley. So Jamari Harris has come along. So I think we're developing some depth there. And then one other guy I mentioned, talking about those guys that, you know, we kind of knew we had Campbell and Benson. Justin Jacobs has made huge improvement in 15 days. You know, he needed this work so badly. It's always been a good prospect, but boy, he's turned into a pretty good player right now, and he's developing some confidence too because he's out there working. And those are the good things you see in the spring. So that's what you're hoping to, all these little individual stories that, you know, hopefully will come together here in August.
Kirk, you mentioned the changes that the NCAA might make for fall camp, but I'm guessing it's a subject you'd like to.
I'd love to
expand upon it. Less hitting, less time in.
We're not going to talk about cut blocking, so let's talk about. I'm giving up on that. Okay, I've got to wait for that. I normally don't surrender in life, but I've pretty much surrendered on that one.
But
because there's just a total climate of apathy on that topic. So
it's
outside of 2 people,
the change is pretty drastic in terms of time and pads and time.
Yeah, you know, so since we're on that topic, it got me a little bit curious, and I'm not a stat guy or a detail guy necessarily all the time. I just kind of go by how things feel, what I'm seeing, you know, and think about stuff. So it did pique my curiosity. I went back and asked our training staff, asked Cammy, I said, you know, how many concussions have we had the last 5 years? Just out of curiosity, because it sounds like it's a national crisis right now. I thought we just kind of were coming out of one. So I guess this one's going down. We got to create one. You know, we've had an average of 1.5. I don't know if that's like, is it HERPA or FERPA, whatever it is. I'm probably violating some act right now, but we've had 1.5 over the last, we've had 3 1 year in preseason. We've had 2 and 1, and we've had 1 1 and 1. We've had none this camp unless I walk in there and find out. Somebody had one today, which I just saw Cammy a minute ago. She said we're clean. So we haven't had one this spring. Football it's a risky game. Anybody that's ever played it, figures that out pretty fast. Anybody watches it and pays attention. When I work construction in the summer times, the guys that were up on the beams, they got paid a lot more than the guys on the ground because they're walking on beams and they're at risk. But my fear is it almost seems like we're creating I don't think we're an outlier. I think we're almost trying to create a story here. I also think, since I'm talking, right, which I am, you know, we tend to be a copycat to the NFL. Whatever they do, we do, and which is fine. But we're not the NFL. We don't play preseason games. You know, we have to develop players. We have to do that. Most college teams do. There are some that don't, but we have to do that, and you have to practice to develop players. So I'm a little concerned, and then it all starts with, you know, you can only learn to play football by playing football. And what would have made more sense to me, and again, I'm not a medical expert, but I can go back 20 years ago where we were having a lot more concussions. The equipment wasn't as good. There was no protocol for treatment. The whole world has changed so much. And the single biggest thing you can do to make camps safer, preseason safer, is create more space in between. So I think, you know, not that I'm a big SEC guy, but they have the right idea, 35 for 25. And I would argue maybe 32 is probably enough, but to give more space, because when we did shift to 1 days, that's my first observation. It's almost impossible to sanely have 25 practices in 29 days. We're going to have a tired team in that first ball game if we follow that theory, so we didn't. And, you know, what would make more sense is give guys more time away, let them breathe a little bit, and recover. You know, that's the key to keeping people healthy. And then the other thing that's changed is, again, the equipment is so much better. Our guys are wearing custom helmets. The protocol is going to make a world of difference. And I think the data on concussions and concussion studies after, you know, the protocol era began, you know, you got to go down 10 years or whatever it takes to get good data. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit more of a significant conversation. But right now, I think we're throwing darts. That's me personally. I'm not a medical expert. Don't claim to be or certainly pretend to be. But I'm concerned about that. It's just, you know, you start making rules that, or policies that are just kind of like founded on whatever. It just concerns me.
So, Kirk, are you concerned that the lack of hitting in preseason could lead to more injuries once the hitting actually starts?
I think that's the first thought I had 2 years ago when the NFL talked about doing that. I get the ball in the ring stuff. That's a stupid drill. Anybody does that, I'm okay if our opponents do, because you've got a good chance of screwing your team up, right? So it just, like, I think that went out, whatever year, in the 70s maybe, Need on the Hook, anybody read that one? Okay, so, but yeah, I mean, you got part of playing football, you got to learn how to take a hit and deliver it safely. And there's technique and all that involved. And a lot of times with injuries, you go back and see that as being an issue. And then a lot of times it's just freak, it's luck. Like, I mean, last knee, I can't remember a knee injury. In the old days, it was guys falling on each other. I can't remember a knee injury now. It's more of a pivot or a plant, you know. But there's risk in doing what we do. We all know that. And all of us that did play, that don't play now, we're all dumb enough to probably sign up. At least most of us would sign up again for it. So.
1 or 2 more.
I wanted to ask about your wide receiving core. We've seen a little bit of Arlen Bruce and Keegan Johnson this spring ball, and then also today Max Cooper and Charlie Jones seem to be kind of the key targets for features. So I just wanted to know what you've seen out of them, what progression you've seen out of them this spring.
Yeah, first of all, Tyrone's I alluded to is really doing well. So
right, yeah.
That's where it all starts for us. Charlie has, you know, been a good punt returner for us, and now kind of like Terry Roberts, you know, we really hope that transitions into him being an every down guy. And we're optimistic based on what he's done thus far. Nico's out, and he's a guy we got a lot of confidence in. And then at that other, you know, the other spot right now, it's a jump ball, and that's really, we've got guys that have the potential to do it right now. You talk about a guy like Ritter, you talk about a guy like Hudson, but they've got to keep moving. You know, they've got to do better because they're not at that level yet. And not that Keegan Johnson is, but we've given him some reps out there because we feel like he's kind of on equal footing with those guys right now. And really, it's who can do the best between now and September. And then Arlen Bruce is a guy that just, you know, he's kind of impressed us with the way he's done things. So we've given him a lot of work too. So if the door's open, you know, go in there and do something with it. And then Max has been hurt a lot the last couple of years. So he's had 15 good days right now, and I think he's taking advantage of those repetitions, and he's done a lot of good things too, so we've developed confidence in him. So it's kind of an open book right now, and that'll be one when we meet in late August, you know. It'll probably be interesting to see where we're at. I couldn't even predict it at this point.
Kirk, when you look at, again, kind of a quarterback, in what ways did you see growth from Spencer? Because last year, he was inaccurate at times. He was good when he's fairly decisive right off the snap, and less good when that wasn't the case. What have you seen that as he made strides in those areas that you wanted to do?
Probably the two biggest things that come to mind, and we talk all the time, just be, you know, the accuracy element. not only completions, but in a perfect world, throw the ball where a guy can run with it too, on top of it, not just, make a circus catch and end up on the ground. And then the other thing is just, I think, just processing things faster. You never go fast enough as a quarterback, and if you play till you're 35, it's probably the case. You just, the faster you can process and make decisions, they got to be good decisions, obviously, but I think that's the race that the guys run all the time. It never ends, so it's a challenge. And then, being cohesive too helps, having good protection and guys run the right routes and run them, the way they need to, all those kinds of things. But, a lot goes into the passing game. But I think overall, this has been really good for him because it's been 15 days of just, fundamental work, and that's so important for all these guys.
Time for one more, anything?
Hey Kirk, I'm making a documentary on Luka and Frank Garza and their relationship and the process that kind of got him to where he is. Can you say something about what it was like working with your sons and just kind of what that's like for their relationship?
Yeah, let me start with Luka. I don't know anything about basketball, really. I'm a casual fan, and I don't pretend to be an expert on Luka either, other than a guy as a casual fan watching the program and watching them compete. It's been fun to watch him. Because I really took to him back when he's a freshman, sophomore. He's a guy just, played hard, had good energy, just like, you could tell it was really important to this guy, the way he played. And then the other thing, just, casual fan watching the jump that he made, and I think it was year 2 to 3, where like, you can just tell this guy's been working, and it sounds like his dad's been a big part of that. Just reading, I had a chance to shake his hand today, it was nice. But, the work that he's put in, it's paid off so beautifully for him. When you think about the awards that he's won, that's amazing. It's mind-boggling. You think about, you got Caitlin out there, right, as a true freshman, what she did as a true freshman, Luka with all the awards, basically the Heisman winner of college basketball, and then, 2 weeks ago we had the Heisman Award of wrestling. So it's great for our team and our program to witness these other athletes in our programs, right, that are doing great things. But going back to Luka, to me, it's just like, this guy has just worked his way and willed his way into being a really, great college basketball player. And that's what sports are about. That's the fun part about sports, is seeing that kind of growth and improvement. And, just go back to his first 2 years, he just seemed like a guy that had great determination and will. So, you wonder, it's not a mystery how guys get good. You got to have some requisite ability, I understand that, but that's how it goes. And, then have a chance to I've never technically coached my 3 kids, but to be in the same building, be on the same field, watch them on practice film, things like that. I feel like I've stole time. Like, we miss a lot in coaching, because we're away from our families a lot. You grow up and you don't get those years back, you don't get that time back. But still 4 or 5 years, in their case, 5 years involved. It's just been, it's one of the things that's really made this a special experience for me. That's on a personal note, but I mean, it's really made it gratifying, and I feel like I've been very fortunate, so I feel great there. Wish my daughters played basketball football. I'm really glad they don't, but anyway.
All right.
Okay, thank you guys. We'll see you
Appreciate it.
in June.